Let's get this started. I hope the volume is good, chat, so let me know. But, hello everyone. Welcome to the Wizard101 Dual School Roundtable. My name is Goomay, or you can call me Matt, whatever. And I'm a Wizard101 content creator on both YouTube and Twitch. I've been a dedicated Wizard101 grinder since I was 5, literally questing in kindergarten with my best friend. But anyways, we're here to talk about the past, present, and future of Dual School and Wizard101. And today I am joined by some King's Isle devs. So if you guys would like to introduce yourselves, now is that time.
Cool. I'm Cam. I'm a designer, and I've been at the company for about 9 months. And I don't know what else to say. I'm excited to talk about this stuff. Woohoo!
Hi, I'm Dom, otherwise known as Stormbringer in the community. I'm also a systems designer and ready to talk about Dual School.
Artie, Granite Heart in the community sometimes, but mostly Artie. Design director, been working in games for a long time. Was here before Wizard launched, and now I'm back.
Hi, this is Ratbeard, the design lead, and I'm going to give a shout out to Charlie, one of our other system designers who wanted to be here today but had some prior engagements. So he's also working on some of the stuff we're talking about today. So good job, Charlie.
Testing. Is this thing on?
It is.
Yay! This is somebody else. I always like to be mysterious in the beginning. It's like, who is this? And everybody, I bet in chat, will catch up real fast and go, yeah, we know who that is. I'm Spark, Senior Community Manager at King's Isle, and I am really excited for this roundtable as well. We've had a great year of roundtables with the community, and I just want to give a shout out to all of the roundtable folks. We love you. This is great. I think this has really been a great program that we started, and we want to empower our community influencers and content creators, and this is one way to do that, and I think it's a win-win for everybody, right? So you guys all in chat, I hope you have questions. I think we're going to take some at some point, but we definitely have some questions already to go by Goomay here. So Goomay, I don't have much in the way of answering these questions, which is why we have 4 others. I think I counted right. 1, 2, 3. Yep, 4 others here today, which I believe is a record actually of developers on any one particular roundtable. So you've got a lot of thinking brains here that are going to give the community some good answers to these questions of yours. So I'm going to sit back, relax. I'm going to just chill with the community, and you guys enjoy.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction, everyone. But anyways, my first question, it's more of a topic to bring up, but what is the main reason for leaving behind shadow enhanced spells and bringing forth this, like, making the Archmastery the main, like, pushing with new spells?
I better tackle that one. I better start with that one, I think, because I think for the most part, I have not been shy whenever asked about shadow spells, just sort of describing the way that shadow spells have really made life difficult for devs, right? I mean, they're so far above the power curve. They have a ton of value. Fortunately, they have some natural gating mechanisms to them. But they're difficult to design around, and we've noticed things like the library, or at least the player's choices, kind of collapsing around the shadow spells, right? Not so much in PvE, but certainly in PvP. In PvE, speed is of the essence, and players don't really have time to wait around for that shadow pip. But in PvP, players tend to wait for the shadow pip, and we notice things like that, and we are trying to correct for that. And so I think it's fair for players to take from my comments that I'm not a huge fan of shadow spells, and I would say it's time to close the door on those, but that's not final, right? I mean, it's design space that we certainly can explore in the future, and I'll let Artie talk about that more because he may have different opinions than I do on it. but the main point, I think, is that we sort of have this cadence. I mean, it's hard to call the third time a pattern, really, but at level 50, we introduced critical hits, which kind of was a new system that changed things for players. At level 100, we introduced shadow spells that kind of changed things for players. And so it felt like the right time at level 150 to add some new mechanic to the game. And we had been talking about, the mastery pip or the school pip concept behind the scenes for quite a while. And so it was a great time. It happened at a great time. We happened to be at level 150, and we had certain problems that we thought that the mastery pip or the school pip could solve. And so now is just kind of the right time to move into that. Again, I wouldn't say that we've necessarily closed the door on shadow pips entirely, but probably for a while we're going to explore this new mechanic. Artie, feel free to rebut that if you want.
Yeah, no, well, shadow spells are kind of interesting, but yeah, the problem is that we may want to. Yeah, I don't know. I would want to look closer at the mechanic itself. Problem is that it gives a giant power spike at what is normally the same sort of rank range for all schools. So it creates a situation where players play as all centered on that same rank range, and so it kind of makes the play sort of similar, and it kind of then everything else kind of gets devalued in terms of any other hit in the library. So anyway, yeah, I would say that we would probably want to reassess the role of the mechanic in the grand scheme of things before making any new spells, I would say. And plus, with school pips and stuff, we have a lot of design space to explore. So it's not like we're hurting for new ideas and things.
Awesome. I love that response, because I definitely like, I never thought about it really, but like when you say like PvP players always waiting for the shad, it's like, yes, it's like, when can I bomb next? So I love the idea of having like if you're using a full deck, that is, getting like a PvP orb every round, and I love it. I think it's perfect.
I think the school pip is going to be interesting in terms of it just adds another sort of strategic layer to what you're doing from round to round, in addition to cycling. Like, what are you going to prepare for? What, especially like in PvP. And PvP informs, like, none of this stuff is going to disrupt the adventuring experience a lot of people enjoy. So this isn't meant to disrupt anything the way people normally enjoy the game. But yeah, I think the school pip it introduces another layer of sort of decision making that you have to make from round to round in a PvP setting or in a PvE hard setting. So it'll be cool, I think.
Awesome. So with that out of the way, I just wanted to ask about the shadow enhanced spells, because I know a few people were asking about that. But next to the topic of Archmastery. I know this is like the core part of Novus here. Archmastery is basically all of the new spells and a bunch of the lore spell rework. So the first Archmastery question I have is, how can you get it? Not how can you get it, but we know you can get it on Dex, Jewels, and Pet Talents, I believe. I'm not sure if I heard they were going to be on Pet Talents. But then, are there going to be more ways to gain Archmastery, such as, could there be any elixirs, or could it be on other pieces of gear, like how robes, hats, and boots gave shadow rating? Could we see Archmastery on anything else? And would there be any chance of cantrips as well?
Well, the pet talent isn't quite ready. It needs some extra work to get that to function as we want it to. But also important to note that starting at level 50, you're going to start getting some Archmastery rating for free, just as a base stat. Up to max, obviously. As far as adding more, we haven't. I mean, we kind of just added it, so we haven't really discussed stuff like elixirs and such. But I mean, anything's possible. Archmastery is built in a way where we can kind of scale it how we want, and it's kind of neat in that way.
Kind of interesting that cantrips were mentioned. Now I'm starting to think that way.
Yeah. Like a cantrip global or something.
Yeah, because we already like magic touch inherits the school of the caster, so it could be that you have multi-school sigil spells or something. Would be cool. That could be cool. So anyway, thanks for the idea.
The question here really is we'd have to look at PvE hard mode, right? Because as we have designed it now, Archmastery is kind of not meant to be a huge hurdle for PvE. And so we'd have to look and see if you actually needed something like a cantrip. We might have some custom modes, like a raid, for example, where getting over on the mobs or a boss mob on Archmastery might be a key component of winning a particular battle. So in the future, if that becomes a problem for people, you all can blame Goomay.
Okay. My bad. Anyways, next question, still relating to Archmastery. So, are there plans to... Well, this is kind of like on the same topic of the getting Archmastery at level 50. I'm kind of going to like move this around because Lore Master spells are all requiring Archmastery now, or at least some of them currently in test round. So with the idea of having Lore Master spells on a wizard below level 50, how would that work? Like, is it just, are Lore Master spells just going to be exclusively like level 50 plus, or is it going to be specific if you have that like pet talent that you mentioned?
Yeah. Go ahead, Dom.
Yeah, well, the planned pet talent is one way that wizards under level 50 can access it, but we also added another way, which should be in this current build and test round. There's a jewel that you can get from Runacarite in the shopping district, I believe.
Yeah, Goomay, if you want to just walk into
the
jewel shop in shopping district, you can show it off. But
Yep. And that jewel will actually give you some Archmastery rating at whatever level you are. So if you want to engage with the system, you can go ahead and engage with it at levels earlier than level 50.
There's a tier 1 and a square 1 right now.
Yeah, let's just call that out since you mentioned it, because I know that Cam put that in for test round. So, and it'll go to live as well. So there are some +1 Archmastery stat jewels that will be available. Who'd you put that on, Cam? Which vendor was that?
Her name is Catherine Rockhammer, I think.
Yeah.
Catherine Rockhammer. Probably a badger, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
In the shopping district, I think it's in Wizard City. I think it's in
the shopping district.
Oh, there you go. I'm looking at it on stream right now. So it's so that's the +1 version. And although the jewel itself I don't think is level locked, you're gonna have to have a deck that does have sockets on it, and I think those are probably minimum level 15. Although I will say that Artie has talked about maybe adding a secret deck somewhere that might be even lower level than that. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Kind of to Artie.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not so secret anymore.
We'll see. Well, I mean, the thing is, the problem is that lore spells are accessible by everybody, every level. So, we're just trying to find, kind of common sense ways to allow those players to access the spells they've acquired. But one of the reasons why we were wanting to kind of delay its introduction is just because, we don't want to throw too much at new players too soon. And so we wanted them to get to a point to where we felt they would have a mastery over the normal combat, and then allow them this extra thing. But we also know that part of the reason why like school pips will be useful is you start to sense that, I mean, the game started with encouraging you to invest in other schools, but then the way power pips work currently, they don't really allow you to do it, because like in beta or whatever, we saw combat slowing down in Marleybone, so that's why we introduced power pips and stuff. And I can't remember why we restricted it to school, but we did. And so what that meant is that any of your extra hits for side schools or other schools would just quickly fall out of favor, because you can't use the whole reason why we introduced the power pip in the first place was because it was taking too long for you to get to the bigger hits. And then by making it school restricted, we then essentially funneled you into a single school. So I do think that even before level 50, it could be useful, but we didn't want to formally introduce it to new users, but veteran users would find that. That's why I mentioned that a deck might be interesting to have in a secret vendor somewhere in Wizard City, maybe, to allow those players who, are longtime players who would be familiar with these things, or maybe they're active members of the community and they hear about it. So then they can kind of opt into the system early. Mm-hmm. Whereas like actually new players, they'll play the game as we present it to them, and we'll present them with Archmastery a little later, just so we don't overwhelm them with things, because there's just a lot of things to Wiz. So anyway,
I love that idea of like a secret, not secret, but like something that people, long-term players who have lore spells, can just get the Archmastery early if they have the lore spells. I love that.
Yeah, I think it'll work. It'd be good.
And then I have one final Archmastery specific question, which is, it could be a one-word answer. Archmastery for Moon School, because of shift spells. That's that's all I gotta say.
I mean, the idea is interesting for sure. But we're evaluating the primary schools right now.
Okay.
So the astral schools are a whole other.
Yeah, like,
the astral schools are a whole other thing we have to go into.
I don't know nothing about Moon or whatever. I'm looking at auras, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, that is a problem to solve. I'm not eager for that, but yeah, we've got to get through the, but we'll try to engage with the community on these things, and try to explain our rationale for things, and what the goals are, and how, it's really, we're trying to improve the experience for the players, of course. And so, I always see it as sort of as a partnership. And so, with all these things, we'll keep moving through and having conversations with you all to make sure that what we're doing is on target for those who are interested in it. Not everything is going to appeal to everybody. So this is, dual school, PvE hard, PvP. That's for people who are looking for maybe some characteristics to the card game that are more traditional, maybe a little bit more in-depth hardcore, like the raid, things like that. It's not for everybody. And we make things for the casuals, and we make things for hardcores, and that's just what we'll keep doing.
Artie is currently looking at the astral spells starting with auras, which as players know, there's just a ton of value in the 0-bit aura. And now I'm just picturing you guys asking about shift spells, and all I can see is the Eye of Sauron, like turning over and looking at you. Be careful what you ask for, is all I would say.
Yeah, it'll get there.
Okay,
it's gonna happen.
Okay,
and it's if anybody looks at auras and you look at it from just a value standpoint, there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
There's a problem. And so then you can just start to imagine what options you have. What options are there to kind of, I guess make the value investment equitable. But anyway, we're not here to talk about auras or future problems. Let's have fun with dual school.
I mean, not to skip ahead, but there is the idea of some dual school auras. A lot of people ask me about that, but I don't. Skip that for now. Skip that for now.
Well, no,
Any-
I mean, it's a good point because you bring it up. I mean, if we were to go back and look at the existing school auras like Reliquary or what is it, Virulent Plague, and all those, they don't really work. They don't really play nicely with the Rochambeau, and it could be interesting to make some of those auras that work, that have dual school synergies to them. So it's not bad.
Well,
Just
we were
too
also. I mean, it's timely too. Cam and I were going over Storm today, and we were looking at what is it, Thunderwing or Stormwing? You know, that gives an aura. It's an interesting spell, you know. But how much is that How much is that aura worth? Who knows? Who knows? We'll figure it out, but we don't know now. So
Yeah.
we'll figure it out one day.
All right. So I'm going to move us on to the next category, which is just the spells. I have one question relating to the spells, and it's not specifically the brand new Nova spells, but spells in the future, and that is, will we have future Archmastery spells using schools not related to your primary? How Fire had to deal with, or not had to deal with, but Fire had the Myth spell on the side. Could we see something with Fire with a life spell? Because of with the Professor gear recently, that had, for Fire, it had life damage on the side. So is that something that we could see? So new spells could be more, you could be more creative, is what I'm saying.
Well, I'll start with this one, and then I'll kick it to Artie. I mean, on the one hand, we have players saying we really like the flexibility of being able to choose whatever schools we want to partner with, and we're down with that. But on the other hand, we also have players telling us, be careful how you let any school partner with any other school. And so we have to keep an eye out for that. Because there may be ways for players to rank things, I guess, in a bit of way. And, you know, we want to make sure that we're building a strong Rochambeau wheel that players can understand and they know what those relationships are. And the more that we deviate from those relationships, I think the harder it gets for players to understand what is really a new concept. It's an old concept, but it's new to you guys, right? So, so there is some danger in making it too freeform. But I would say that directionally speaking, we are all about players having as much ability to customize, you know, whatever dual school or triple school, or I don't know. I'll say 7 school because it's possible, but if we want to go to the Astrals, it's, you know, more than 7. You know, we would like players to have as much flexibility as I guess the game will reasonably allow.
Gotcha. That's good. That's perfect. Yeah. Because I just showed my balance wizard who's been running storm stats, so I could definitely see if you just, there could be some dangerous combos there, definitely, when it comes to stats and the power of spells.
I want to jump in here. I got to randomly, like in the middle of our conversation, just, is that Spark speaking? What is he doing? I didn't know he was invited in here. No, seriously, I was just thinking as you guys were talking about this, and I was thinking of, you know, all of the history of my playing games for way too many years now, and thinking, you know, that there's been so many efforts I can recall where you try to accommodate flexibility to such a degree that it can actually water down, might be the right words, of a particular, like in this case, school, where your identity of that particular school is so close to all the other schools that they all kind of are in the same, there's the distinction, uniqueness is diluted. There's risk in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I would say is, like, you know, a lot of the people, or a lot of comments I'd seen early on, at least, was how this movement that we've started since last year is causing schools to lose their identity, but we're strengthening the identity of an individual school. You can see it in the fire spells. We're identifying what is the key characteristics to a school, and then we're attempting to strengthen those things. And then the thing is like with adjacent schools, the adjacent schools will be influenced by the strength of a primary school. So Fire's characteristics bleed a bit into life and myth. and so they start to work together because they are in close proximity. But as soon as if you spread that out too much, then you start to get almost sort of a homogenization of all these connections, and then you begin to lose some of the things that make that area of the wheel unique versus the opposite side. Like Ben had a graphic that was that he showed on stream recently that was I thought was an interesting visual representation of where some of the stat centers are found, right? Because we talk about spell effect centers on the wheel, but we don't talk much about where the stat centers are, and where does resist live, where does health live, where's pierce live, where's damage live. And so, like, in order to make those things have more clarity of definition, kind of what Mark's talking about, is that they have to kind of you have to kind of respect their boundaries. Like, you can't have, like, ice couldn't possibly have a dot, you know what I mean? Like, you couldn't have that combination, because it totally ruin everything if that would happen, which I know it happened. I mean, but just as an example, like, we wouldn't in the future want to make a ice fire spell that lets ice create a dot or something like that, or even storm. Storm shouldn't be creating dots because it undoes what ice does. Now, with the pins and with we made the school pips very fluid, and we made the pins very fluid, so to allow the player to kind of explore things in whatever way they want. And so while there may not be these manufactured synergistic plays between schools from opposite sides of the wheel, players could make interesting combinations. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see some things happen all the way across the wheel that may not have engineered benefits, but might have practical benefits, just in terms of the access to effects and things like that.
And one interesting point I think is important to consider is when we think of school identity, we think of what should the spell be doing more so than what should the wizard be doing. I see a lot of players being like, oh, a storm wizard shouldn't use fire spells or whatever, but if you're using a fire spell and it's a dot, that's fine, because it's within fire school identity and it's within the spell. So the identity is more so characteristic of the spell more so than the wizard.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
People.
There's that graphic on screen now. So thanks, Goomay.
Yep.
Yeah. So, right. So, like, a wizard may have sort of natural inclinations for certain magics based on what wizard you chose, but the spells have always been available to all schools. I mean, training points are there for a reason. You're told to go train in other schools, so it's not a foreign concept to wizard. We're not, it's a fundamental concept, the training point and training and learning magics from other schools. Even if as an ice wizard I have some innate differences from a storm wizard, but it's always been that a storm wizard can learn my spells and I can learn his spells. So
let's step off. Step off there for a second, because I think that's important for people to understand. For folks who don't know, Artie was one of the designers who worked on Wizard prior to its release. So Artie is an OG, right? He's old school design on Wizard, and you can still find not just in the gear that's available early on, which would include Artie and Alec or Ray, as you guys know him, either way, who designed this early on. So the idea of the schools in Wizard, of players of Wizards basically training into Dual School, is not really new to Wizard. It's how the game sort of was envisioned at the start. And this is my own personal opinion, I feel like Power Pips kind of killed that in some way. And so you start out with a game where exploring the strengths of other schools is built into the game, and then very quickly, basically as soon as you get Power Pips, it starts to be suboptimal to be Dual School. And so players move away from that. So I think a lot of our current players who feel like Dual School is this crazy new concept really kind of look back to the beginning, because Dual Schooling has kind of been part of Wizard since its inception, and it drifted away from that. And what we're trying to do is to bring players back to that, because at the end of the day, we do feel like players being able to learn more spells, understand what other schools bring to the table in terms of their strengths and weaknesses, and to learn spells that can shore up your weaknesses, or I guess maybe sort of in an adjunct kind of way buff your strengths. That's always been part of the game, or at least it was part of the original intention of the game. And so we're trying to bring that back, and I think that ultimately we'll succeed in that effort. But again, as already said, we understand that players for a long time have been sort of mono school and enjoying that play experience, and we intend to continue supporting that experience. And you can still do that. But I think that if the more players that we can serve with a particular play style, the better. And we do feel that players have been asking for more interesting gameplay, and I think Dual School, or at least branching out in terms of the spells that you learn and use in gameplay, is an important part of that.
Yeah, Wizard was always a casual story-driven game, and it still is, right? And so there's no reason to change that. Like, people enjoy it for what it is. It's a casual game with interesting characters, interesting storylines, cinematic combat, all the stuff. It's all good. It all works. But it always had a layer of depth to it that was built in from the beginning, and just looking at the combat system as it exists now, felt like it was, there was some lost potential there in terms of, making it, bringing some of that interest into the combat system. And you see it, we hear it. We hear people complaining about, single row PvE decks and blade AoEing, all this stuff. And I've been calling it like Zen combat, where you just kind of going through it. You're watching stream, you're watching anime, whatever, as you're just kind of going, and it's not, it's low stress. You don't have to, there's not a lot, and you're just having fun, and that's cool. Don't want to mess with that. Why would we want to mess with that? That's fun stuff. But at the same time, like as the raid sort of is sort of a precursor for, as it's PvP, some people like to be challenged periodically and like to be pushed to the limits of their mastery of the game. And so that's really kind of what this would be. It's just sort of an area of the game that people can go into if they're interested. And I think Wizard's gotten a great foundation for a very interesting and diverse and deep card combat system. And it doesn't have to interfere with anything that the other folks want to enjoy. And I wouldn't force the people who want to. I wouldn't want to force anyone to do anything, of course. But if you want to do tougher combats, they'll become available eventually. And if you don't, that's okay. That's cool too. Play it the way you want.
Yeah, I think definitely having the option of definitely going that route, getting that. I pulled up the Celestia crafting gear where you can get, I think any school, it's a cool little alternative. I remember when I was a kid, I was crafting that gear, and I was hitting with, I got Deer Knight on my fire, and I was hitting with Deer Knight. It was weird, but I remember as a kid, it was awesome. It was everything to me. So I think definitely having that path that you can go down is perfect.
Yeah, and I think just as an example, we made it, as we were kind of looking back at how people engaged with the shadow system when it was first introduced, we didn't want to run into the same issues with the school pips. So we just figured for the casual folks who just want to kind of have fun, again, doing the Zen combat and stuff, we can, they can generate school pips, as fast as the optimally, let's just say. It's not going to be a stress point for them to kind of, and they can still enjoy it just as well as anyone else. And they can experiment with other schools if they want or not. Just stick with your main school. And, just sort of, we didn't want to make it a high pressure situation for those folks, but for PvPers and people who want a hard PvE experience, it's going to be it'll be part of the challenge. So, but that's what I think some people want periodically. Is they want to play Wizard and then be challenged. I mean, that's what the decathlon was attempting to do. Who can make the best deck? Who can defeat these challenges using Wizard's core combat system? I think in Beast Moon it's the same way. A bit of a challenge that's different from the story-driven content that you see in other places of Wizard. So I think there's a portion of the player base who are interested in these things, and so we can dedicate a certain amount of time to fleshing that out for those people.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
You're gonna make me segue into the burden of optimal play for a second.
It is tough. It is
Yeah,
tough.
I mean, I think that there are some players who feel like if we make dual school look better, they have to do it. Which I understand that for some players that's true to a certain extent, which is kind of what they have now. Right now they feel like if we make mono school look like the obvious best choice, that's what they're going to do. And then, if we make dual school look like a smarter play, or at least a more interesting play, then they may feel some pressure to do that. But we're not trying to pressure people into dual school. But for people who are interested in that and they want to try more diverse things, we can do that. And I've seen some players say things, specifically about the Nova spells, for example. But why would I ever use this in PvE? And it may be that the answer is right now, well, you wouldn't. Right now there's not gameplay to support the need for these, I would say customized utility spells. They do something very specific, and for players who are familiar with Beast Moon or PvP or even the Raid, I would say the purpose of the Nova spells is very obvious. But for our casual players, it may not be so obvious as to why they would ever want to use that.
Right,
But we'd like to expand that at some point. We will provide reasons for you to want to use the more interesting spells, and those places where you use those will be optional. Right? Go ahead, Artie.
Well, I mean, I think if I feel for the people that feel the pressure to engage in something that's maybe more stressful than what they're comfortable with. But I mean, on the flip side, if we're asking people to take on a challenge, a more challenging experience than the Alpha Strike AoE that a lot of people enjoy, then it only makes sense that they would get, it's a risk reward situation, and there is a burden to optimal play, and right now there isn't that burden on normal PvE, which is fine. Like I said, which is fine. And the normal sort of Wizard experience is street mobs, street combats, being very sort of, again, zen, casual, and then periodically running into some puzzle bosses that you have to kind of figure out their bit, figure out their trick, build yourself around that trick, and then beat it. And that's not gonna change. But at the same time, the dual school stuff will be more challenging, and so it only stands to reason that the people who would be engaging with that might get rewarded at a higher rate than for the time invested versus other folks. But you still don't have to do it. There's still a pathway for those who don't want to engage in those things to get rewards. I mean, that was part of how we engineered the gear also, so that we could distribute templates of gear that were relatively balanced, one against each other, so that it wouldn't be a matter of oh, this is obviously the best thing, and I have to do this thing in order to get it. We really kind of want to give players agency to decide when they engage in hard mode, when they engage in normal. Where do I go to get gear? Where do I go to get spellments? And allow players to engage the game in the ways they like to get the things they want. So.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to change the pace here almost. Take it to another kind of question that is not totally related, but it's the topic of pre-existing mastery amulets in the game. What is the future with Exalted Mastery Amulets, Exalted Mastery, yeah, the Exalted ones, the Provisional ones, like the PvP ones, the level 1 ones, the Dark ones, all of these. Do you plan on keeping these in the game with the addition with Archmastery? Is it necessary to keep them, or what is the thought process of Mastery Amulets? Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, who wants to answer that one?
Yeah, that feels like a Dom and Cam kind of thing. Let's let these guys start.
Yeah, I mean, I can go.
All right,
into
sure,
It.
I can start, and then we can segue into Cam. So with the mastery amulets themselves, they're not gonna change. As in, we're not gonna actually like take them away or anything. You might find that for PVE and in casual PVE that it's so easy to get a mastery pip that you may not need a mastery amulet, so it opens some options there.
Mm-hmm.
Or you might want to actually wear a mastery amulet and then generate some off-school pips, and then you can actually be wielding 2 or 3 schools or however many schools you want.
Awesome.
I mean, yeah, I don't have much to add to that. It's just, yeah, you can use it however you used to use it, I suppose, and with some, I guess, yeah, you can. I was thinking of some strategies, like if you wanted to be an ice shade in the raid, for instance, you could have a balanced mastery to cast something to diffuse and still heal with life pips. I don't know. There's uses out there that I'm sure you guys will find.
Yeah, and we did. I mean, we did design. We were mindful of the mastery amulets when we were designing the school pips. So we did think of how they might coexist, and there is advantages to it. I mean, I'm sure the PvPers will find it.
Oh yeah.
And other people, and so it's like, yeah, there are advantages, and then what its future is in terms of how it might be included in gear in the future. I'm not sure, because we would have to quantify its value relative to the other stats that you'd be, because we balance everything relative to stat and stat value. So we would have to, we would need to look at that. But we did see that had an idea for how a person running mastery, how they might, the benefits they could reap by doing that, giving up some things on their amulet just to be able to, run mastery. So it's definitely something we had in mind.
Glad to hear, because I've definitely been thinking about it, like having 3 different schools at once. Technically, it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, since your screen is showing, the topic is old mastery, I'll just call out real quick, because players have been a little bit confused. A school pip is a power pip with benefits, right? So if you have a mastery amulet, then everything that you could do with a power pip before, you can also do with your mastery amulet. So there's still value in having old school mastery. You'll have free access to use all of the power pips and school pips to cast spells from your 2 base schools, right? Plus, you'll be able to benefit from whatever the school pips themselves add to it. So, because players were a little bit confused as to whether mastery would continue to be something that was good or not. And I would say for players who might want to dip into a particular school in order to, let's say you just want to get life heals, you wouldn't have to have mastery to do that. You could try to do that just with the Archmastery stat itself. But having mastery and Archmastery together is certainly more powerful than either of those 2 things alone.
Gotcha. Awesome. My next topic that I've got here is training points. I have 2 kind of questions. It's not directly related to training points exactly, but it's about the idea of training spells of other schools, pretty much. So the first one is, are there plans to make it easier to train other school spells? As a fire, if I wanted to train all the way up to get the Myth Djinn, for example, are there plans to making that easier so I can get the Djinn and only the Djinn, and then also get life spells if I wanted to? Or does that plan on staying the same for the most part? The current system of training points, that is.
What do you think, Artie? You want to take that one first?
I hadn't really thought about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see it as an issue really. Like some part of it. So eventually we'll want to kind of reevaluate access to spells as to, because like for instance right now like the scions can't be trained by other schools, and that allows the school to at least retain some of its identity with a spell. And so like to what extent it's about like it's about like being able to I guess clarify a school's identity through its spells, like if we want to do that. And then also it's about how much should we ask someone to invest in a second school to gain access to the things they want in that school. Right now you have to invest a lot into a school to get everything you want to out of the school, which I think is fair, but certainly something that I've thought about some, but right now since we're kind of deep in looking at the spells and looking at stats and looking at core combat things, we haven't gotten there yet. So, but again, and just like I said with just like with everything, it's going to be a conversation we have with the community about our goals versus what you all think would be enjoyable and stuff. So
there's two ways to solve the particular. I hate to use the term problem, but the particular problem that you pointed out. We could either make it easier for you to train specifically the spells that you want, so that you don't have to invest as many training points in it, or we could just give you more training points, right? So there's basically two ways for us as designers to attack that particular problem. But what Artie called out really is more the issue, which is how committed should a person be to a second school, right? And we have to decide as designers, and you guys can certainly give us your feedback as players, how freewheeling you really want this, right? Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you could train any spell, piece by piece, the specific spell you wanted, right? What would happen, right? I know that everybody would go and get Feint immediately, and they would get Tower Shield immediately, and you would just pick and choose the best spells, and then you would have way more training points than you possibly need, right? And so that's how we look at that. It's how much coin do you have to spend in terms of training points to get where you want to be, and how much do we want you guys to invest in a particular school to I guess sort of, I don't want to say prove that you mean it.
Yeah.
There should be a certain amount of investment involved, and I think the more valuable the spell, the more we should expect you to invest. And as already pointed out, we haven't really thought in great detail about this. Kind of the new Rochambeau spells, where they're situated, was really more predicated on the kinds of things that the spell was doing, and putting them behind certain places where it made sense that you needed to have a particular spell prerequisite in order to perform a new function, right? And so there was some thought behind it in that respect, but we haven't really necessarily looked at that from a holistic standpoint of how many points do you have to spend, what are we trying to make you do, and we will get to that eventually. But as already said, right now we're kind of focused on what are the spells themselves doing.
Right, and you can see this other sort of, you can see how we're in it's kind of reflected everywhere as to, there is we do want folks to make a certain amount of investment decisions in terms of, what schools are they going to kind of go into, which ones are they going heavily into, which one are they going lightly into.
Yeah.
We try to evaluate each thing as a case by case. So like in the school pips themselves, we started at a point of like, how can we ask players to have a certain amount of investment in the school pips, but then just as we went along, it felt like a better system to keep kind of more fluid and free form. Whereas, like with the pins, what we're saying is that there's going to be tough decisions to make, not only in terms of the gear templates that you're wearing, which inform the pin slots that you'll have, but then what sort of stats are you going to kind of push into and that'll be related to kind of maybe what you're trying to get out of this of a school you're looking to integrate the spells into. And so anyway, it's just one of those things where we'll have that same conversation. Yeah, how fluid do we want this spell training to be, and how much investment should we ask from players?
Gotcha. All right. And my next question, that's relating to training spells, training points, and all that. What is the thought process behind making some spells specific to some schools? Like, for example, Dryad cannot be trained by any school except Life, and Power Link can only be trained by Fire. What is the thought process behind locking these spells to these specific schools, and with the addition of Dual School, not releasing these to be trainable by any school?
Well, it hasn't. We're revisiting it all, right? So like, Wizard historically has gone, had taken a direction over the last decade, and some of that was the foundations were laid by the Power Pip being school specific, and so what may have been happening is we're trying to strengthen an identity for the school along the way. But once we get through the spells and stuff, that'll be something that will, just like with the spells, we'll just take a holistic look at how it all works. Like, how does it? Because I have in the backlog, I want to redesign the spell tome, basically how you train spells, how you see what spells are available for your school, and all these different things. So that'd be a perfect time to kind of revisit some of the training decisions or limitations that we would want to put in. But yeah, right now I couldn't explain the rationale because I don't know what it is.
All right. Because I saw a chat message that I just kind of wanted to point out. It was like, they said, will we be able to train school blades? And it's like, it's something that's kind of, it's not like I'm not asking that, because you can just get a treasure card blade if you really want to. But it's that idea of spells that have been locked to specific schools for years, seeing these spells unlocked to be trainable on any school, just to promote that functionality of dual schooling. It's just really interesting.
Right, yeah, I agree with that. So, that'd be interesting. I'm excited to get there, where we can actually look at those sorts of things. Yeah, but it's all part of it, and it's going to be, it's a long process. There's a lot for us to have to go through and make sure that we're lining everything up in the way that kind of supports our goals, which is really meaningful choices, interesting card combat that sort of inherits some of the characteristics from more traditional card games and things like that. So, we'll look at everything through that same lens when we get to it.
Awesome. And then I have one final topic here, which is all about gear, stats, and pins. I kind of put it all together, mostly about pins, and all that, and some of the new gear as well. But first of all, are there plans to add further gear customization to wands, athames, amulets, and rings? With the new Novus gear, we can see that you can throw pins on to customize like to any school that you want. Like my Fire right now has these myth pins on, but if, for say example, I wanted to have life pins on, I can't put life damage on any of the new Novus, like ring, athame, or wand, for example. These are locked to having exclusively myth damage, when the main gear, it could be, with the pins, it could be any damage. So is there a plan to allow players to have more customization in this, where, not saying that you could have pins on like the athames and rings, but having maybe more rings to experience other schools more easily?
That ring is crazy. I've never seen that before. I'm not putting that on my finger.
The Urkra, yeah. Ouch. Well, we talked about this recently. If you mean the like rings and wands of schools that are within the Rochambeau, like, you know, myth is with I mean, fire's with myth right now, but it could also be with life and stuff like that. Then those will come out, you know, as they do. As far as the non-Rochambeau ones, like Fire with Storm, I don't think we have any plans to allow like, I guess, yeah, the have like wands that have that kind of stuff on it. And this kind of goes back to, I guess, what Spark was saying earlier about schools having an identity, and while we do want you to have choices, and it's very possible that with pins alone, you can experiment with going outside of the normal schools, but yeah, it is a little bit limited in that way. Anyone else have something to add to that?
All right.
I guess not. All right.
I mean, yeah. Well, like I said, we're it's an iterative process. So you know, we take steps forward. Like Cam and I have been working on like loot maps and drop rates and distribution of where you get things and other things and things like that. So like it's not as easy as just saying like, hey, you know, you should add, you know, whatever 4 times 3 or however many extra rings and themes and all this other stuff. It's not that easy just to put it in and integrate it, because you know, as you if you add more rings to the pool, it means it's less of a chance you're going to get the one you want, so which leads to more grinding. And what we'd rather do is be able to predict the amount, the level of effort it would take to acquire a ring, and then make sure that each source results in that ring in that time, as opposed to overstacking a source with rings and it takes forever. Like that's kind of what I think in some of the cases with the jewel drops, there's just so many jewels in the drop table that it would take an eternity to get the one you want. Well, that's the problem. So what we need to do is break it up and then find appropriate sources for all those things, so that when you know the ring you want, you go and get it, and it takes the amount of effort it took to get any ring, to get that ring. But when we're talking about adding that many more pieces of gear, especially into a world economy, it's certainly not possible in any sort of quick way. But we did start to hear that sort of feedback as people were working through test realm, things like that. So it is something we're mindful of, that you know, people would like the ability to find the ancillary gear that would support their chosen build. I'd prefer not putting pins on them, but we can look at maybe other ways that people can acquire those things to kind of fit their builds. But it wouldn't be all schools, right?
Yeah.
Just to echo what Cam said, it would be the schools that have some sort of engineered connection. Now you can use you know, jewels and pets and pins to kind of go into whatever school you want. But then these pieces of gear will be sort of constructed for a particular connection or synergy.
Because it's not like you want every school being able to run storm damage with storm stats and maxed out storm pins, and just, because that tears away like everything.
Right, yeah, I mean, yeah, like, you know, and again, that image that Ben created illustrates the danger of that sort of thing. Like certain stat profiles are kind of influenced by that. So anyway.
Yeah, this is actually an interesting thing to note, because I didn't see a question that relates to this. The amount of offense you get on pins is related to your school, not the school of the damage. So if you were to go to the test vendor, maybe if you're around, look to it. So it would basically, so like if you're a life going with storm, you're gonna get a life amount of storm damage, not a storm amount of storm damage.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right? Yeah, that's a good way to put it. You'll get a life's portion of storm damage, not a storm's portion of storm damage.
Right, and vice versa. So, because like if a storm got a life version of life damage, then storm would never use life. But if storm gets a storm amount of life damage, then it'll be a lot of life damage. And same with the other offensive stats.
That makes plenty of sense. Yeah.
Which is why every school has the equip school and the school of the stats are there. There's a lot of them, as you can see, and that's mainly because of this way and not anyway. Let me know if you have any follow-ups to that.
Well, my next question is
Sure.
pretty related to pins. And it's about the leveling of pins, like the minimum level, and also the idea of other gear below, like other existing gear getting the option of pins, like Waterworks gear, because I think the lowest level pin is level 80, and that's like, it's just something I like. What was the thought process of having these random pins be level 80, level 100, level 110 if the minimum gear to use it is level 160?
I can answer that. The reason for that is it's basically to future proof ourselves and I mean eventually hopefully like once we when we get the time to, I think we do plan to integrate these to lower levels, but for now the reason why those, I think it's the accurate pins are so low, that's because like if you increase it to 160, it would be the same number on that pin, like so it would still be 7% storm accuracy, and so just to not confuse people with a 160 storm pin and an 80 storm pin that has the same amount. And accuracy is a weird stat because it doesn't increase that much, because once you're at max, you're at max. So
Yeah.
in the upper levels, it doesn't increase very very much. So that's why you'll see some weird stuff like that. But yeah, maybe 170, 180, it'll increase, and you'll get another one. Who knows?
Awesome. So that is like the bulk of my main questions. Do we have time for like some more, I don't know if I would call them more fun questions, but like definitely less important, I think. Is there time for that?
I don't know.
I
It's
am,
your
I
show.
am under Spark's command.
I think. Did we get a chance to answer any community questions yet?
I pulled like some ideas from some in chat, but if chat wants to like bombard us with questions, you could pick a
I
few
don't know.
right
Your
now.
show. You do what you want. I don't want to suggest, the chat. Now I said it, I guess, because now the chat's
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
ooh,
yeah.
Spark said. So I opened up that can of worms.
Chat can
Apologies.
Chat can go crazy if they have some questions. I know
I
that
think
there were some.
We had a
before.
show about an hour and a half, so at most. So I think our team, we have other things to start working on at 6 o'clock in the evening here. And so maybe 20 more minutes. We'd love to hang out with the community, or at least a few minutes to answer some more questions.
Awesome. Oh, Finnegan had a interesting question about trainable astral blades, the star, sun, and moon. Because we just got them in TC form from the guilds.
Right.
Man, I'm telling you, you guys are obsessed.
Just obsessed with
with
astral.
Astral
So
stuff.
these are more triple school blades, and they're not
Oh,
really
right.
related to astral.
Yeah, we actually had some conversations about that sort of thing today.
Yeah, it's
Anyway.
just a triple blade that makes more sense with the Rochambeau. I
Yeah,
don't know
totally.
as soon as you make something permanently trainable, you can't undo that. So that's probably why we're hesitant. But
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good job, young designer.
There was a question about the minions and minion counters. That's definitely not dual school, though. I don't know if you guys want to.
Talk about minions.
well, you got the minion guy in
Minions,
here.
minions.
True, you do have the minion guy.
A lot of elucidate mentions. That's very dual
Seems to
school
be referring
related.
to the update notes, which
Probably.
Yeah,
patch notes,
yeah.
which I put
Oh.
together this morning. Hopefully, it's accurate.
Why does someone have elucidate learn? That is
There's a fun little story behind that because that particular screenshot was taken by one of our programmers because he had earlier access to the system and we needed a screenshot for the update notes. So when it was taken, I mentioned to Ben, I'm like, hey, there's tradable elucidate there. Do we want to put this out to the community because it'll spark a whole bunch of speculation? And Ben was like, yes, let's do it.
Chose chaos.
Okay.
I chose chaos.
Well, it's good to know that's not planned. We also did see the like all enchants being banned though in this new thing of test realm, so that's cool.
accurate, yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of like the broad brush bans, usually once we like want to evaluate a system fully, we'll take that system like offline for a little bit just so we can evaluate it. Like we've seen it with like
Cloak.
enchants right now. We're kind of going into the astral spells right now, so we're gonna PvP ban enchants until we can get a firm grasp on that and where we want to head in those directions.
Yeah.
I'll throw in a question of mine, which is kind of related to the idea of banning things before, like banning under review. And it was an idea I had about mutate spells, and if we could see mutate spells with dual school variants. This is something that like I mentioned before to some people. It's like the idea of having, because there was Ice Wyvern, and that goes into Fire Wyvern when you mutate it. It'd be cool if there were some mutate spells that would be good for your main school and also your secondary school. So you could carry the base spell and the mutate card, and both would be useful. Does that make sense? I hope that's being read. It's kind of hard to explain, but like
Yeah, I mean,
it was just something. It was an idea.
we haven't decided what we're gonna do with mutates, but I think it's pretty safe to assume we would want to make them work with the Rochambeau and
Gotcha.
and possibly school pips, but there's some complications there.
Ooh.
But
Ooh.
but just I think that's certainly a neat idea.
And there was another question I had that was related to gear, stat, and pins, which I kind of threw aside, but it was the idea of having, because there's already the hybrid pets in the game, which I don't think we've seen for at least a few updates, I want to say, a few years ago. I'm not exactly, whatever it was, but you can get like the fire elephant and mix it with like the wraith or whatever and get like a cool fire wraith. It was the idea of mixing that concept with also dual school, and could we see some specific pets that were only equipable to Rochambeau connections? Like if there was a fire and myth only pet, but then I took that idea and twisted it to something like Dex, for example. So if there was like a fire school only and a myth school only deck where the copies were more for only fire and myth.
That could be interesting. Like more max copies for the dual school.
Yeah. I kind of worded it very poorly in the beginning, but like,
I feel like
yeah,
that's come up before. I don't remember what was the end of that conversation, but
Well, I know we've talked recently about, at some point kind of reevaluating how we itemize decks in general. Because we've seen a lot of requests for different sort of different deck, I guess, characteristics or whatever, values in terms of max capacity or sideboard size, and then deck copy count, things like that. So that is something that's on the radar.
Awesome.
Provide like more deck variants in that way, not just like the stats, but also kind of those other things.
I would definitely love to carry 6 copies of Troll Minion on my fire. That's something I'm very interested in doing. So if that ever gets added, I would I would definitely love that.
Cool.
And then I had one final question, which I thought was something fun that I thought of that I would like to ask. And what's the idea of having both Archmastery and Shadow Pips on the same spell? Was that idea ever thrown around in the making of Novus? Or because I feel like that would be like a terrible like mix now seeing both in the game, but like
That would be.
was that
That's
ever
a lot of value.
That sounds
Yeah,
like
it's
that sounds like the
ridiculous.
people who are like, let's make a spell that's 14 pips and 2 shadows and 1 protection. See how high we can get the damage number.
A conditional lore spell shadow hit dual school spell.
The only way. No, we didn't.
And it's a gambit. And it's a gambit.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that specifically, but when we were doing the UI, we were entertaining all combinations. So, but not for Novus.
It's-
No.
Right, it's
Yeah, it's
possible,
the
but probably not feasible.
Highly unlikely. I mean, yeah, look, if we do like a shadow spell, I mean, if we ever did it, I probably would not allow any normal pips on the spell at all. So it'd
Sounds
have to
like
be
a fun-
all school
fun
pips
time.
and a shadow pip, right? So something really hard to pull off. Right? Be super hard to pull
Oh
off.
goodness.
would definitely be cool though. Scary but cool.
Yeah, it would just be hard to. Yeah. Anyway,
We should make an Azoth, a supreme Azoth spell that requires one of each pip.
And then 2 Shadow Pips.
yeah,
Two
and
shadow-
and 2 shadow pips.
Two shadow pips.
Oh
That'd be
no.
hilarious. That'd be ridiculous. So yeah.
That's pretty much all I have though for my questions. I'm trying to think of any last minute ones that someone may have thrown in chat. Oh, there was the idea of dual school auras. I don't know if we wanted to talk about that. I think we skimmed over it before, but like the idea
We talked
of
about it a little.
oh, and
Yeah, I think
also
it's cool.
I had one other question. Something like this item right now I'm showing it on stream. It's from the new Grim Cerberus pack. How the fire amulet gives a like 4-round virulence. I just thought that was something really interesting, and it would be definitely item like weird amulets like that would definitely have more value if it was some sort of dual school aura or if it was a longer aura as well. That'd be something interesting. I don't know, it just seems like, I don't know how to word it, but it definitely seems a little pointless to have a 4-round virulence on like a fire amulet. It's just
Right.
it's just like if it was dual school it would just be mwah.
Across the wheel is what that is, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
the
opposite.
Mhm.
opposite. Yeah.
So it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, I mean, probably won't be till spring before we start looking at auras and stuff.
Okay.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
imagine. Yeah. But yeah, those are cool ideas. I mean, I think there's a lot of things. Like in Beastman, we experiment with a lot of different things with auras to see what works, what doesn't work. And that, Beastman does kind of inform some of the things that we bring over to main game when we see stuff that works well.
I remember back I remember at the beginning of raids when dual school was the main idea, there were some, I think it was Flawless and the upgraded version of Amplify were both being used. I want to take a look at these real quick. Yeah, it was it was the Flawless was being used because the universal, and it was something. It was just interesting. So definitely seeing like specific dual school auras would be very, very nice. Very, very nice.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be cool.
But yeah, that's it. I kind of pushed it a little bit further. That is all I have for questions. I don't know if there's any last minute chat questions if you'd like to pull some. Seeing some asks for teases. That's definitely not in our spectrum here.
I don't think we have anything. Not right now. I mean, we just did the. We were just looking at Storm, so but there's nothing to tease on it yet.
We did a lot of teases throughout the Novus campaign. In fact, if you're interested in teases, you can always follow TikTok.com/@Wizard101.
Oh, I did want to mention that. Yeah, we on Test Realm now, we got most, if not all, of the first pass of the on a lot of the fire school spells done, and some of the lore spells. So I know folks normally engage in Test Realm to see the new world and do things like that, but it was a big drop for us on what was that, today? Did it go?
Mhm.
Yeah, and so I encourage folks who have access to get in and try them out and let us know what you think.
There's a one final thing. I'm gonna pull this from chat from Dakota. Dakota was talking about how when you when you are doing dual school, like for example my fire, dueling myth, it's when I have the option to hit with fire or myth, the option to hit with fire always seems greater because of the stats and the pure damage of the spells. Is it? I'm trying to think of like the right way to word this right now, but it's definitely like it seems less worth to hit the dual school right now.
I have a summary version, and then we'll let Artie talk in greater depth if he wants to. The summary version is you guys have not seen all the stuff that we have planned, right? We have a lot of combat changes, like not just spell changes, but changes to core combat that are on our to-do list that you haven't seen yet. And some of those changes will certainly influence the way that players interact with the game. And then if Artie wants to expand on that,
Yeah, there's going to be, like, I guess a few different ways that off-school hits can be beneficial. Is I think the most obvious is hitting around defenses. Like if you have, if somebody's warded against fire or whatever, or has some set shields up that you can't deal with. I mean, set shields not really a problem for fire, but if you had set weaknesses, which is that's something we could probably tease eventually. That's something we're expanding into. Like
interesting.
I said it 22 minutes after after we were supposed to be done. But anyway, maybe Ben would want to sort of go into that. I don't know.
well, my kid just burst in here to say, "Let's go, Dad. I'm supposed to be going to dinner tonight."
Yeah, that would have to be tomorrow, this week, or whatever.
Well, if we're actually done, there's one more thing that I wanted to mention. I don't want to step on Spark's toes here, but I just wanted to mention for anybody listening how the roundtables come about. And this one, generally speaking, a roundtable happens when a content creator contacts us and says, "Hey, I'd like to talk about XYZ." And in this case, Goomay asked us if he could do a roundtable about dual school, and obviously that aligned with the stuff that we wanted to talk about, so it was a good way to do it. But for anybody out there who's curious as to how the roundtables come about and what their purpose is, they are community driven. You guys need to let us know what you would like to hear us talk about, and then contact Spark, and then we can work together to try to set it up. Spark, do you have any more to comment on that?
That was excellently stated. The only thing I can think of is we sometimes we'll plan these out months in advance. We have a really cool round table, a little bit different than we've done in the past. that I don't want to spoil it, but it's coming up in February, and it'll be with another community leader, and it'll be about a topic that's not so much about the content of the game, but about the team King's Isle. And so it may be where we chat with you and we go, hey, there's something that just kind of matches, but it might be a couple months from now. We're doing this one thing right now, so if you have an interest, if you're a live streamer, you have a platform that may fit something, especially if you know something's coming up that we might want to talk about, propose it. We'll see what we can do.
And I highly recommend it. This has been fun. It's been a little scuffed on my part because this is my first one, and I'm a little nervous. But for the most part, it's been really fun. It's been really fun.
You've had a great live stream here.
Thank you.
I've been watching the Twitch chat. Everybody seems to be having a good time. Chat, you having a good time? We'd love to be back if there's another opportunity. You're even running around in the game and just kind of, everything's been, I think, at least from my view, a great live stream.
Yeah, and just to kind of echo kind of what Ben was saying about the origins of Roundtable, like it was something that Matthew and I talked about a couple of years ago or whatever, when people in stream during KI Live seemed to interested to talk more in depth about certain things, and then that's kind of how they came about. And so it is a reflection of the community's interest in something, and so reach out to Spark if you want to host one, and we're happy to talk about the whys, the hows, what we're doing, and we're always open for ideas and feedback to make the game better for everybody.
There's a question in chat that just came up about that. So to wrap around to respond back to you already on that, there's somebody had asked, well, what's the threshold for being somebody that would be acceptable to host a roundtable? And there are a few things. It, as always, in a lot of these sort of considerations, does matter on the details and the specifics, the timing, and all of that. I don't want to sound wishy-washy. I know I am a little bit there, but it helps if you've been a dedicated, responsible, positive participant in the community. Positive doesn't mean you don't have critical things to say about the game that would help improve it. We want somebody that has an all-around good perspective that can speak to that in a way that can be, responded to constructively. That's what I'm saying there. And so that means you've been probably streaming for a while. You have a platform. Doesn't mean you need 1 billion followers, but people know you and can speak about you and go, yeah, they I can watch your streams. I can see how you do, and then kind of matches from there.
So yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, and if you want to do another one, let Spark know.
Will.
Right, tomorrow, 5 o'clock again.
Yeah,
all right, let's do it. Let's go.
Every day this week.
Let's do it on pet training. I love pet training. Anyways, thank you.
Cool.
That's it. That's all I have to say. Happy birthday, Rapbeard.
I dropped the code. Happy birthday.
Wow.
There's a present in the chat.
Oh, nice.
Is that a one-time use?
That's a 25. It's the one you gave me. You ought to know. 25 uses. 25 uses.
But yeah,
Hopefully. I hope I set that up right.
thank you so much.
Yeah. If you made a mistake, it's on you, not on me.
Yeah. I'll double check that right now. Thanks, everybody.
But yeah, that's it. Thank all of you. Oh my gosh, for coming here. Really appreciate it. This little round table. Been a ton of fun. Thank you for answering my questions. And that's it. I hope all of you have a great night, and thank you once again.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right.
Thanks.
See y'all
Bye.
later.
See ya.
Bye.
I'm gonna be honest. I did not know it was Rapier's birthday. I didn't even get that. I didn't get the memo until just now. I feel like I'm behind. I at least said happy birthday though. I feel pretty good. But anyways, that's the round table. I didn't either? Okay, at least I'm not the only one out of the know. Why didn't you mention how OP mana elixirs were? Okay, I'm gonna be honest. There were a lot of dumb messages in chat that were like, I tried keeping even the questions from chat. I tried keeping it like dual school. So I'm not gonna ask about a mana elixir. On a scale from 1 to 10 of awkward sign-offs where a 1 equals Ferric, I give Goomay a solid 4 out of 10. I'll take it. I'll take it. That's good. That's good. You know, I had that in mind. I had that in mind. At the bottom of the script it said, learn how to properly say goodbye to the devs. And I think I did that. I think I did pretty good. I think I did great. What's up, Almond? And Ferric, thank you for the raid. Also, thank you guys for the level 6 hype train. I was not like... I saw it, but also like I wasn't like fully like seeing it. I saw it happened, and I was like, I could say thank you and interrupt this, or I could just like ghost everyone that gave me money. So I went with the second option. But anyways, thank you. I appreciate it. Please ban Dragoon AoEs in raids. No, I saw that question too. I was not going to ask that. Rapbeard, go to dinner. Drop another code. Okay. Okay. Ferric is always out here setting the bar for everybody else. Nothing new here. So true. So true. I want to watch Redditors cry. That's fun. Go to dinner with your family. Enjoy your birthday. Yes, enjoy your birthday. Thank you so much for coming here. Again, Rapbeard. Really do appreciate it. Thanks for hosting, Goomay. Yes, no problem. I hope it was good. At least, okay, I'm gonna be honest. At least on my part. When can we swear? What do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not picking up. I feel like, okay, I feel like at least on my part, I feel like I worded, because I didn't, okay, like I had the questions written out and I didn't like say them the way I wrote them, and then like it kind of like messed up in my head a little bit sometimes, and then I was like, and then like in my head the question barely made sense, and I'm like, do they understand? Are they on the same level of thinking that I am? Because my level of thinking is way below right now. Anyways, it worked out because the questions got answered, but it was just funny. I just thought it was really, really fun. In my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my god, whatever. But yeah, that's it. You did great. You did great. You can tell you could put a lot of prep and thought into it beforehand. Thank you, Autumn. Appreciate that. I love kind words. 3 hours of plus 500 mana is OP. Okay, be quiet. What is this mana elixir thing? I don't know. Somebody was talking about it, so I thought it'd be funny to get the mana elixir, and then I got it. Yeah, Goomay Free did great. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But that's literally all I have. I kind of, whatever. Mana burn is bugged right now on test realm, and there are kids abusing it, so be careful if you PvP. Bruh, you ain't gonna catch me doing balanced PvP on test realm. I got ranked Valorant matches to lose right now. Like, I should have ended stream 5 minutes ago, and I could be in a ranked match already, like, -1-6, okay? Like, I don't know what I'm doing right now. You were so slay, Goomay. I'm ready for the next roundtable from you. Okay. It's good to hear that people want me to do another one. I would love to do another one, but I would need a good topic. Definitely would need a good topic. You did good, Goomay. Thank you. Thank you. Anyways, though, I am going to end the stream off here. I don't have any content planned. But definitely more streams soon. I miss streaming. I miss talking to you guys. And there are definitely some things planned behind the scenes, but nothing that I can do right now. But yeah, that's all I got to say. So thank you everybody for being here. Really do appreciate it. All the love. The level 6 hype train, everyone coming to the stream, everyone pulling up. Really do appreciate it. And that's all I got to say. That's it. Also, next stream there will be camera. Don't worry. I just didn't put it on this one because. But anyways, that's all I gotta say. And I'll see you guys next time. So later. I'll be thinking about you in my dreams. Okay, it's time to end the stream. It's time to end the stream. Okay.